Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Dax of Adiron. My name is Corey and I am your visual Sherpa during what I can only describe as this mini-series about hiking the Adirondack High Peaks and becoming a 46er. Today I woke up early and drove an hour to hike my first high peak, Cascade Mountain. It's located roughly 8 miles southeast of the Olympic Center in Lake Placid on Route 73. Now, I don't mean Lake Placid where the giant crocodile eats a bunch of people. That was off in Michigan or something. I'm talking about the Lake Placid where the U.S. hockey team beat the Russian hockey team in the Olympics in 1980, and then they made an awesome movie about it called Miracle with Kurt Russell. This mountain gets its name from a series of waterfalls cascading on a brook near the base. At 4,098 feet, it's the 36th highest peak in the Adirondack mountain range. The total elevation gain on this hike is 1,940 feet, and the total distance from the trailhead to the peak is 2.4 miles. Now, I was told by those who've already hiked this mountain that it's the easiest of all the high peaks, and for that reason I should do it first. That being said, the trail begins with an immediate gain in altitude, though it's certainly not steep and it felt pretty manageable. I was also told that this is one of the most heavily trafficked trails in the high peaks, and if I wanted to get a decent parking spot, I would need to go early. The week of this hike, it had rained every day, and this was the only day where it wasn't supposed to. So as the temperature was in the mid-50s, the trail was wet and muddy, and the peak was saturated in fog, I thought I'd better not miss my chance. Since this hike wouldn't take more than the morning, I brought along my small day pack, a windbreaker to wear at the peak, my camera equipment, a couple of granola bars, 64 ounces of water, and some bug spray, as mosquitoes and black flies can be biblical this time of year. No GPS or compass needed. This trail is hard to miss, even in the wee hours of the morning. The trail levels off a bit around the 0.6 mile marker to reveal the waterfall brook that gives the mountain its name. It's small, but it has rocks in all the right places. After carefully climbing over the brook, the trail veers left and gets steeper. The deeper into the woods I went, the more it felt like traveling into some sort of Tolkien fantasy. The light was having a lot of trouble breaking through the canopy, and I felt like I could almost hear the forest elves from Lord of the Rings. Of course, those aren't real, and I'm not crazy. As you can see, this entire trail is rocky to the extreme, and since it's been raining all week, every step I took needed to be consciously taken if I didn't want to twist or break an ankle. Well, we've reached the I don't have anything to say portion of the video, so I'm gonna shut up for a minute and let you enjoy the ambiance of the forest waking up with all its birds and other majestic animals. and me trying my best not to sound like I'm dying as I make my way up the trail. It was hard to tell exactly where, but somewhere around the 1.4 mile marker, I hit the ridge. The ridge portion tends to go back and forth between steep and nearly flat. It helped me in that I didn't have to stop to take a breather, because by the time I was out of breath, the trail got more horizontal. It would be nice if every mountain trail was this way, but I know that's not my future. So for now, I'll just have to do my best to enjoy the cool weather and the relatively easy trail. Relatively being the key word. .4 miles up the trail, you'll come to a section of steep but open rock. Normally, you would have a great view from this spot, but the weather isn't ready to cooperate just yet. So I kept moving. At this point, I should mention the one rule I set for myself when I set the goal of climbing the high peaks. 1 hike per peak. I know I just heard some groans. I understand that this is not popular or convenient since I'll be traveling the same trails over and over, but since I'm making these videos and I'm using the mountains to get in shape, it seemed like a good way to challenge myself. So I'm sorry, but I won't be visiting the peak of Porter Mountain on this hike, which is just a hop, skip, and a 0.7 mile walk from the trail I'm on now. At the 2 mile mark, you'll come to this fork in the trail. Going right will take you to Porter Mountain, and going straight will continue on to Cascade Peak. From here, all you need to do is follow the white paint marks. Once you see this stretch of open rock, you've made it. Nearly. You just need to make the last push up the open face of the rock and make sure not to step on any of the vegetation on your way. The DEC has very helpfully laid out stones and signs to let you know where you should step. The reason for this is that the vegetation at the peak is protected. There was a fire on the peak in 1903 that burned it all away, but other than that, I couldn't find any real information about it. When at last I made it to the very top, I was a little disappointed that I couldn't really see anything. The fog was still very thick, and while I caught brief glimpses of the surroundings, the fog wasn't going anywhere. So I waited. And waited. And waited. After 2.5 hours of shivering and listening to an audiobook, it looked as though the fog was here for the foreseeable future. So I packed my camera equipment and began to finally make my way back down. And that's how it goes sometimes. I couldn't get you the beautiful shots advertised by the tourist websites or pamphlets, but honestly, I think I saw the mountain in a way that many people never get the chance to. Still, it would have been nice to see the valley. And wouldn't you know it, about 20 minutes after I began making my descent, this happened. Thank you so much for joining me on this adventure. I hope you'll consider coming back for my next one.